Welcome to the world of Warcraft.
And welcome back to part 2. Everybody's rebuffing, getting ready. Survived that mess of a pull. Now you notice something here that just from the buffing, our Ret Paladin has gained threat. And I am about to gain threat here as soon as that rejuve ticks. Yep, there it goes. Switch to bear, bash him, and hop back out, ready to heal. Thankfully, our Ret Paladin and the Feral Druid picked up the mob that was on me. Just gonna finish off this raider here and keep moving. Something to be careful of as we approach the next pull that we'll go over here in just a moment. Your tank won't always watch your mana, and unfortunately, from previous experience in this run, we've noticed that the Paladin has a tendency to take off when he thinks everybody's ready, and I'm not always on full mana. No problem. Most of the time, as long as you notice and you're not sitting drinking way out of range. I'm going to pause it here. Let's do some quick annotations. We've got this group here that when a low level runs by, more than likely going to pull. Additionally, this is a cliff ledge, and down below are some trolls. If he skirts this cliff ledge here, he will pull all these trolls, and there's a long path. They will run up here and back up to us, pulling everything else with them. The old train of mobs that nobody enjoys, and you rarely survive. So let's see what happens next. If I recall properly, we do pull the mob to the left here. As soon as we all start going, there we go. Everybody's ready, just waiting on our tank. Because you don't want to move in front of your tank if you can help it. Our mage is moving in front of the tank. She's level 59, so thankfully she won't pull herself, but if she moves it all to the left, yep, you saw me highlight that. So let's go over what just happened here. In case you missed it, our mage was here. She sheeped Moon. So she sheeps Moon, starts running back, but instead of running directly back, she kind of took a little bit more of an angle and pulled this group. Now she's netted, and our tank has to react quickly to grab these before they start hurting her. Alternatively, and this is what our mage does, is blink so she can get out of this net. So she's going to blink away, and as a healer, I'm going to throw a rejuvenation on her. Let's continue. There she goes. Now I have threat, so I go bear. And I'm trying to get some heals off on myself. Paladin's healing me. That actually gets threat back on the tank. You also notice that I had Blessing of Protection, so that threat dropped immediately. But as soon as that's gone, I have the Raider beating on me. So I go back to bear to try and hold them off. Our tank's holding the 2 ogres, which is good. But unfortunately, even though I have the mob right next to him, he's not pulling it off of me. Our Ret Paladin sees this and moves over to try and help me out. I have a choice here. Pause this and go over our choices. I could have stayed bear here and tried to tank the Raider, but instead I decided to pop out and throw a heal. We've got a couple different heals now on our tank, so he's going to be able to make it a little bit longer. If I go down right now and the tank's healed, the group will be all right. If the tank goes down, there's more of a chance of a wipe in this case. We have two people who can pick up heals. We have our Ret Paladin, and we have our Feral Druid. Both of these can heal in a pinch, especially if it's not a long fight. And it shouldn't be. If I go down here, there's only the 3 mobs left, plus the sheep off screen. Let's continue. So we've decided to sacrifice ourselves and keep the tank up. Trying to heal myself here, and we didn't quite get it. So you'll notice we died. We went down. I tried to use Nature Swiftness and my big heal. Unfortunately, those couldn't save me because in the time it took for the global cooldown from Nature Swiftness into my big heal, I died. But you'll notice that the tank is still going strong. We've still got a heal over time on him, and nobody else's health is low. So our job was successful. Everybody's going to live. The 2 people that can res us, both paladins, and potentially even the Feral Druid with their 30-minute res, are up. Let's continue. Only the 1 mob left. They should be able to handle it. Now something that you see here, super helpful, made me very happy to see. Of course, I'd rather be alive, but it was nice to see that our Feral Druid here has adapted to the situation. They've adapted to the healer being dead, and they've taken it upon themselves to use the 69% of their mana they have left to start healing. It's very, very useful. Keep an eye on the situation. Keep an eye on your party. See what's happening. And if you can, if you have the ability to heal and your healer goes down, be ready for it so you can help the group out. If you want the group to be successful, that's what I recommend. The ogre's down. Druid finishes up healing. Here's the sheep ogre. And our druid is still healing, which is excellent, super helpful. The group survived. We're dead. We're just waiting on a res. And we're waiting on a res. Don't be surprised if it takes a while sometimes to get a res. Thankfully, our Ret Paladin here is going to res us. And I'm pretty sure he's using rank 1. So I'll take a gander at this. Look at my health here. I'm only at like 7% health with only 200 mana. My suspicion is that he never upgraded his resurrection spell on his spell bar, so he's still using rank 1. Just be aware of that, because in a fight or even after, if you want to keep moving, you're going to have to heal yourself, drink and eat a little more than you might if they used a higher level spell. So healers, people who can heal, don't forget to check your spell bar. The spells cost the same, but the higher rank ones will res your party member with more health and mana. So it's quite beneficial to the group to use the higher rank of resurrection. Let's continue. Waiting on our mana to refill. This is what I was talking about before. Oh, let me continue, and there we go. You'll notice I'm looking down. This is a little better picture of it. You can see there's some trolls further down, but what I'm more worried about are these trolls that are showing up right under the floor here. They are actually just down here on this ledge, down below, and they can be pulled if you walk this edge. So be careful in Lower Blackrock Spire with this edge in particular. You'll see me watch that area here in just a moment. Because I want to know if we have mobs coming at us so I can stealth and potentially hide and res the group later. We're going towards the ogre boss. Thankfully it's 1, 2, and 3 pulls coming up, not a lot of big ones. You'll see me stop casting a bit more here as I'm trying to conserve mana. Apologize for some of the spell sounds. For some reason in Turtle WoW they don't always come through, and so you'll randomly get a loud burst, and other times you will get no sound at all. Now you notice here, once again, our paladin has face pulled, which if it's planned for is not a bad thing, but there's no marks. You see right above these ogres? Nothing. Who knows what to kill, what to hit. So our DPS is left deciding, do I hit this mob or do I hit this mob? What I usually recommend doing in this situation is you look at your targeting, and if you select your tank, check the mob that they are targeting and target that one. Even if it's not the right target, there are times when you have to just go with the tank's target so you don't pull threat and cause a bigger situation. It's a little more hectic for the healer and for the other party members. In this situation, if everybody's targeting the one ogre, in this case the ogre enforcer that our tank is targeting, then the mage could potentially sheep the other ogre, and thus we only have one target doing damage to us. When I say us, I mean the group. But you'll notice that does not happen, and now the ogre mage is able to cast chain lightning, and it does massive amounts of damage to the whole group. So that hurts, and that wastes your healer's mana, which is something you want to keep up. It keeps the runs going a little bit smoother when your healer doesn't have to heal as much and they don't have to drink as often. We're actually going to move ahead slightly in the video because the tank goes and takes care of some household chores. And we're left waiting. Oh, if you're wondering, to the right here in just a second, I'm going to look up at the mob that gives you the quest. If I remember properly, this guy turns into a friendly mob. When you run up here, jump up, and then come over to him, he gives you the mob for the Blackrock Spire key for upper. There's some of the bosses down in lower that have a chance of dropping it. We're not going to talk too much about that in this video. This video is focused more on the group dynamics, but perhaps later we'll visit that. Continuing on, we're still waiting for our tank. Let's advance. Now this is a skip right here. We don't do this in this run, but real quick, after you've killed the ogre boss, so you've killed the ogres over here, you can run up, jump here, jump around this corner, and there's a ramp that's coming down. You can jump onto that ramp and kill the mobs that are at the bottom of the ramp. So just keep in mind that can save you a little bit of running time instead of running back through this long hallway. That would be here and running around. You could actually shortcut it and just run up here and over here. Little things to save time, but not necessary. Still waiting on the tank. And our tank is finally back. I actually cut the recording originally because he was taking so long, so I had to open another video file for us to review. Just checking to make sure everybody still got their buffs. Gonna reapply our minor mana oil. A little bit more MP5. We definitely need it here. Even though we're back, we're still taking our time, waiting for the tank, getting a little restless. You notice he did mark a mob this time. Super helpful, so we know who to at least kill first. Gonna pull it ranged, which is great. Now you'll notice something here that just happened that's rather painful if you're a ranged DPS. Unfortunately, our mage chose not to move. Notice our paladin did move back, so he's out of the range. There's a cleave going on, so we have the mobs cleaving right here. And so they're doing damage to every target in a radius in front of them, and that's including the mage and the paladin. So the paladin should be taking the damage since he's a tank, but the mage doesn't need to take that damage because she's ranged. So just make sure you watch for those situations and watch for those mobs. And if you do get hit by a cleave, go ahead and just back up, find a new position, and resume your damage. Let's continue. You'll notice our mage did move back a little bit, just enough to stay out of War Stomp range. Unfortunately, we're all still close enough to take that Chain Lightning. Trying to throw a Renew on everyone. Get some heals off just in time for the tank. My mana's out, so I innervate myself. I didn't want to have to do it before the boss fight, but if we die before the boss, you can't get there to fight the boss. And I regrow twice. And then I end up using Swift Mend on the tank, which is a little bit of waste of mana, I realize. It's easy to look at going back, and I can find out what I'm doing wrong, so next time, hopefully I will remember and not commit the same mistake. Not advising that you record your runs for that, but just something to pay attention to as you go, so that you could potentially improve yourself. Now, why am I shadow melding while drinking? Unfortunately, I am paranoid that our tank is going to pull something, and it may go to me. It can still go to me if I have threat going, but it will not run into me if I'm shadow melded. So, if I don't have any threat and I'm shadow melded, it won't be able to get me unless it's an AoE. But if I do have threat, say I have a rolling rejuvenation on the tank and he pulls and doesn't get threat on that target, then it will come to me, stealth or not. But it's just my paranoia. Sometimes you have to look out for number one to be able to look out for the group. Another thing about healing you have to be careful of is making sure you heal yourself, unless it's like that situation earlier where you had to make a choice between the group and yourself. Not a lot of action for us right here. We're just making sure everybody's health is topped up. And we're not using extra mana. Now real quick, before I pan away, you'll notice these mobs at the top of the rock pile here. There's a rare mob that can spawn up there. He's not there this time, but keep an eye out. It's always fun to find those rare mobs and get an extra chance at some loot, even if it's a shard that you disenchant. Alright, let's continue. Oh, and I'll pause before this pull while we wait for the tank. This is a line of sight. It looks like it shouldn't be, but it is. Our mage is going to try to cast sheep from here, and it's going to be blocked. You'll see that here in just a moment. The paladin is marking, and he will ask the mage to sheep pull. And as a tank, when you're having sheep pull, you really need to... Oh, this one he does not sheep pull. Okay. He has been, but you'll notice that the mage is trying to sheep, and she's able to. But that brazier can block it. I remembered incorrectly. It may show up later, but for some reason, I thought it was on the pull. But when you can get them one at a time like this, you'll notice I really don't have to do a lot of healing, which is the plan, because then you can just keep the train rolling, right? Keep going. If nobody has to drink, or only one person has to drink, you can really just keep pulling. You're not trying to, speed run it or anything, but it makes for a much smoother run. Everybody has a little more fun when things are moving along and happening. You'll notice there are 5 ogres here. These two, this one, and the one who's just off screen, you can see his axe. They pull separate from this group in the back. So they are not linked, but these two are linked. So I always recommend, in this case, I would sheep the mage and pull the melee. Or if you want to do it the other way and sheep the melee, you could use this area as line of sight. So you could stand here, pull the ogre mage back around the corner, and take him out. And then when the sheep ends, the melee will run to you. Our tank should be drinking here because he's at 50% mana. Especially as a paladin who should be using a lot of mana every pull. But since we are taking long enough, he's actually regaining it naturally without needing to drink. He's marked the targets. He's decided not to sheep. He's marked a sheep target as the boss in the back, which is not going to work. There are very few bosses in the game that can actually be sheeped. I cannot honestly recall any off the top of my head. Oh, that was it. The paladin was running around trying to buff right there. So they were right here. The mage is right here. This was in the way, so they had to run around it to buff the mage. That's what I remembered. All right, let's continue. That was bugging me. Now he's drinking. Always good as a tank. You'll notice down here he asked if we're ready, and he's got some communication back from us. We're letting him know we're all ready. I see him moving, so I don't respond. He should be able to see me moving, hopefully. Notice I use the line of sight here in case I get aggro from the mage. Something super important just happened. It's worth going back for. 1 second. So here's that pull again, and we'll pause it in just a moment. It's our druid. They get threat, and they do something extremely intelligent. You'll notice something we've harped on. The druid was here. They're gonna spellcasters hitting them. Instead of standing there taking it or running towards the mob, the druid actually decides to move laterally and get behind the pillar with me. Great move. Really, really, really like to see that from group members. Really encourage it in your friends and your group members. That's a great example of adapting on the fly. Now I have threat from the mage. Thankfully we lost it. We're trying to keep the tank alive, and we're also trying to keep that ret paladin alive. And we get war stomped. Which is my fault. I was too close, and I should have backed up more. They should have still been in range, and I would have been able to keep healing. Be aware of your own surroundings, unlike what I was doing there. Now we're going to have to drink. Now for this pull, what I recommend as a tank is, like he's got here, marked sheep 1. And then take out this mob while the tank is tanking both of these. So the tank tanks these two, take out the mystic that can heal, and then you kill the boss, and then you kill the sheep. Continue. This Ogre Warbeats quest, I believe, is for the tier 0.5. And I think it's for the pants and the shoulders, or is it shoulders and the cap? But I do believe it has to do with the tier 0.5 upgrade quests. Here I made sheeping. I heal, run behind the corner here for line of sight. Start throwing rejuvenations on people. And regrowth on the tank. And I'm still too close and get war stomped. So I didn't learn. Actually, I think in this case, I thought I was far enough away that I would not get war stomped. Now I get slowed here, and I check to see if slowed is going to slow my casting, and it does not, so we just leave it on. If it had slowed our casting, we could have shifted out of it into cat and back, but we didn't need to. I notice that my mana is low, so I chug a potion. Get war stomp again. We see if our mage is going to keep taking damage, thinking about swift mending. Don't need to do it. Rejuvenation can heal them over time. And we get war stomped again. Now this range is massive. So I tried to avoid it again, and I still wasn't far enough. Great damage pants. The mage is going to win them. Well, one thing we all forgot about is that there's still sheep back here. Look, who's just coming out of sheep here? And we have our mage and paladin who have run off. So the mage is over here. Paladin ran by me this way. And thankfully, our tank is here, able to take on the formerly sheeped mages. And our DPS realizes what's going on. I don't know where our druid got to. I think she took off thinking that we were done. Thankfully, 2 of our 3 DPS stayed. She realized her mistake, as you can see in chat. And it happens, and more than you think. Especially when loot's involved and that loot table comes up and everybody starts looking. So you'll notice here we don't take the shortcut to the left that I mentioned earlier. We keep going. There's another slight shortcut that we do take, though, along the ledge here that lets us skip a mob. I'm going to fast forward just a little bit. So we go get this pike. You notice the druid is going to get the pike, and that's for the ogre on a stick quest. We don't get far enough in this run to cover it, so we're not going to worry about it right now. Now we skipped ahead to the ramp here, and this is what I was talking about. When you come around this corner up here, and then you jump down here. And then you can start taking out the trolls. There's 2 trolls here as well. Just can't quite see them. You'll see them in a moment. But we took a different route. It's a little bit longer to run. Not a huge deal. Just different options to get to the same place. Now what happens here can happen to any group. You'll notice this patrol. What I would recommend doing in this case, as the tank or the party leader, since you can mark, is to mark one of these 2. You'll see the one escaping here, but mark one of them with a mark so you can see them as they go. You can see them through the wall as they patrol back and forth, and you'll know when they're coming. So you could, in theory, pull this group. Instead of fighting them down there, you could pull them all the way up here and line of sight them around this corner, all the way around this corner. And then that patrol won't get anything, right? But instead, we decide to fight down here, and I'll show you how that goes. Gonna get our buffs going. We're gonna skip just a little ahead. And I'm trying to inspect the mage to see those pants. Can't quite do it. There's one of the patrols again. He does mark, thankfully, which is great. Super helpful. But once again, we selected a melee as the first target instead of the ranged axe. Are they both? They're both axe throwers. I apologize. But he's going to try to pull them up, and you can't, right? Because they're both ranged. So I run line of sight, hoping that my threat will actually pull them up. In the meantime, one of the patrols has come up, so we already have 1 extra mob. Not a huge deal as long as the group adjusts and takes it out. You notice both paladins use their stun on it, which is great. And now the mage has threat, and I myself got hit with that. So we're all taking a lot more damage. And the other patrol came through as well. So now we have extra mobs all over the place, and this is a bit of a free-for-all. And I'm just trying to survive. I'm low on mana, and this guy's going to mana burn me. He mana burns a paladin. And I'm trying to save our ret paladin. And we're starting to get this fight under control, partially due to the crowd control of the mage, keeping that mystic sheeped, while I am face tanking the shadow priest. I can't help our paladin, unfortunately. But fortunately, in this case, the ret paladin was able to cleanse him. So we did win that fight, but it could have gone a lot smoother. So just be aware of those situations. The ret paladin traded me a mana potion. Super helpful. Skip ahead just a little bit as we wait for everybody to drink. And we've only got the 1 group coming. Thankfully, the paladin did a good job pulling. Although he didn't mark, we do only have 3 mobs instead of 6 to 8. Because in this next room, there are a lot of trolls that could come say hello. And thankfully, we only had the ones we expected. You notice the mage sheeped on her own. That crowd control is super helpful. 1 less damage dealer from the NPCs on us. It's easier for me. Oh, I was able to get the rejuve before the hex, and you notice I shifted right out of it While that does waste mana, well, it's not a waste of mana if you get out and you can actually do your actions, but it spends mana that you don't want to have to spend. So if you can line of sight the mobs and keep your party in line of sight so that they can't hex you like that, that saves you mana and potentially saves your party member's life, because then you're alive to heal them instead of a frog roaming the floor. Now you notice the mage here moved a little bit too far to her right, a little too close to that group for my liking. I went ahead and stealthed here. I don't trust myself. It's late at night. I'm tired. I don't want to walk into a mob and be the one that wipes us. So I decided to just stealth as a kitty and wait. When we go to pull, I'll come out of it and start healing. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward a little bit. Paladin's rebuffing. He's got things marked, which is excellent. Real quick though, as a level 56, one thing you need to be aware of is while you have this group marked, that's great. You also have this mob right over here that will come with it if you face pull. Especially if you face pull from this way, right? Either of these two directions, you're probably going to get this mob. Whereas if you pull from here, there's less of a chance. You can have this whole area to fight. But we'll show you what happens and how we reacted. Fast forward just a little bit. He went ahead and ranged pulled. Our mage sheeped. We're doing well. And now here's where we make our mistake. We ran in. And once we did that, we have this mob now charging us because I'm healing, so I have healing threat. Instead, what I would recommend, let's go back just a moment. Clear this annotation. Play this for just a moment and we'll pause. The moment the paladin made the mistake. Here, you see him charging. Now it's not bad. He's going to get threat, right? He knows he needs to get these two mobs under control because they are doing damage not only to him, but potentially they could turn and do damage to me. So I appreciate the fact that he is trying to help us out. Now an easier way to do that would have actually been to just come over here and line of sight them. All right, these pillars in line of sight are your friend. So that would have been a much easier way because I'm ready to run right there, right, myself. He doesn't know that, but I'm ready to line of sight as well. And if we do that, then all of these mobs will meet us in that area and we can actually fight all of them just right here. A nice, clean, contained fight. Unfortunately, he doesn't quite do that and we end up getting this extra mob and the fight turns into a bit more of a brawl. So we'll advance again. There's that mob coming in, coming straight for us. And try to get some extra heals. Now I notice I'm about to get shadow burn there. Thankfully we resist it. He dispelled magic on me, so we lost a buff. But I'm trying to keep the tank alive. This nature swiftness, get a big one on him. I can only assume our paladin is standing here. He was standing here for quite a little while. I assume he's trying to cast a spell or use a seal, but he's got no mana because he's been mana burned. So instead of attacking, he's literally standing there. Now, I believe he realizes that and gets back into action. But there was a good few seconds there where he wasn't doing anything. There he goes. He chugs a mana potion and then promptly gets hexed. I get hexed, but I eat it because nobody's taking damage right now, and I get cleansed. Since I was so low on mana, I didn't actually want to shift because shifting into kitty cat or bear takes quite a bit of mana, and when you only have 700 left, shifting and taking 500 of it does you no good if you stand up and can't heal. Thankfully our mage is doing a great job keeping things sheeped, so we're able to reliably, have one mob under control. You do have to watch your left there. You saw I looked down the ramp. There's a group of 4 down there. If you get too close to the edge, you can pull them. We're going to skip ahead a little bit here. coming up the ramp into the Shadow Hunter's room. The same area, if you saw my Stealth Squad video, this is the same area we killed the Shadow Hunter. And you can hear the mana burns, and you see me shift out of it. I'm trying to save our tank. He dies. Unfortunately. And I get Divine Intervention by the Ret Paladin, which was a great choice. So you'll notice here we have 4 mobs on us. We've got a Mystic, Shadow Priest, 2 Shadow Priests, 2 Mystics. And unfortunately, everybody's already dead. We didn't have any CC going on. There were multiple Chain Lightnings, and that pretty much wiped us. Thankfully, our Ret Paladin thought ahead, Divine Intervention me. You'll see that up here. And I'm just waiting for everybody to die so that I can clear Divine Intervention and res our Paladin. Our poor Feral Druid is going to go down here in just a moment. There she goes. I wait for them to reset. Always wait for the mobs to reset. You don't want to accidentally pull them back onto you. So I go ahead and res the Ret Paladin. Notice the difference between when I resed him versus when he resed me. He resed with nearly 75% health and mana, whereas I resed with about 10% of each. So we're going to eat and drink, wait for them to res the group. While we're doing, let's skip ahead. So he's resing the group. Everybody's up, rebuffing. I'm reorganizing bags, not particularly exciting. And we're starting to get ready for the pull again. We do have some marks this time, and we're only going to pull the 2. Now this is something we can handle much easier. There's much less damage coming in. Even though we don't have a crowd control up, we're able to take these mobs on much, much easier. And unfortunately, our tank didn't realize that I'm taking damage, so I had to go bear and bash that target. Not sure what was going on there. Maybe he didn't see it, or who was taking the damage, but I could have stood there, blamed the tank, and died, or I could have acted, which we did, and lived. Now you'll notice that the tank, again, just ran up there and pulled a bunch of mobs. So there's little chance that I'm going to be able to keep us alive here. In fact, if I recall correctly, there's really not much of a chance at all. I do my best, and I'm Divine Intervention, or Blessing of Protection. We're going to try and keep everyone up, but there's just too many mobs going to be beating on me, and I'm already low on mana. Now I'm out of mana thanks to a mana burn. Now I go down. And it's at this point that it's over, right? Doesn't look like it yet, but our group's in trouble. Thankfully, our Feral Druid is back to healing. Our Ret Paladin's healing himself, but even that's a little bit's helpful. But our Feral Druid is trying so hard to help with the heals. Unfortunately, just wasn't quite enough. So she's chugged a potion, try to keep our Paladin alive. Oh, she battle resed our tank. And our Ret Paladin's gonna go down. Oh no. That's right. Okay. Let's break down what just happened there and tricked me. So, our Feral Druid, she chugged a mana potion to res our tank, right? And our tank, while he probably could have just tanked the mob, stunned it, started getting threat, killed it, ended up Divine Interventioning our Ret Paladin. Unfortunately, that leaves our mage one-on-one with this mob, right? Our mage has proved herself to be quite resourceful, so I wasn't too worried about her taking it out. But he could have saved himself the repair bill, and the group could have saved themselves some time rebuffing if he had just decided to fight the mob. Well, let's continue. I do believe our mage wins, and the paladin is able to break his divine intervention. Now, he wisely did not break that early to try and help the mage. Strange things happen. He could have cleared divine intervention. That mob could have turned around, shot chain lightning at him, taken him out, and then he's down, and then it could have turned around and crit our mage and killed her, and then we have nobody to res. So there was nothing to be lost by him wading through the divine intervention. So he played that quite well, as did our mage. She ended up living. Did a good job there. Feral Druid, very smart to res the tank. And I'm trying to look at that shield right now, but I can't, because you can't when you're dead in Classic WoW, or in Turtle WoW. So while they're resing, we're going to skip ahead. We're back up. Start buffing and healing ourselves. Now you notice how much time these take. I'm skipping ahead, and every skip is 10 seconds. Well, we've almost skipped a minute, so there's another minute of this run. So it just takes so much time. The longer a dungeon run takes, I'm sure you have noticed, the less fun it is. Unless you're with a group of friends and you guys are just having a good old time. If you're in a pug, the longer a run takes, it's usually not as good. Because usually it means you're wiping, you're having to spend a lot of time rebuffing, or somebody's gone AFK a whole bunch. So the paladin here has everybody marked, just like when we fought as rogues. The strategy is to, well, I shouldn't say like we fought as rogues. So as rogues, we sapped the 2 ads. Here, he's got them marked to kill. So we're going to kill this one, then the boss, and then the sheep to target. Let's see how that works for us. We're going to skip because it takes, oh, there we go. Paladin is going to let the mage sheep, then grab threat. Now we're running in here to get some distance and to have a clear line of sight on everybody. And I'm hiding around this corner. Unfortunately, somebody looted. I'm hiding around this corner so as not to get hexed. Popping out to throw a heal, watching the sheep, because the sheep's first target is going to be me. I cannot help that mage. She's hexed. It would have to be one of the paladins with cleanse, and unfortunately they are unable to. Now I notice that this dispel magic happened, so I've got a priest on me now. So I go in as bear, stun him, run away, start throwing some heals. We've got the boss down, but I still have to worry about this priest. Thankfully, we were able to take the boss out. Unfortunately, we did not win the Shadowcraft gloves. So I'm going to let this run a little bit more, but we're going to end the video here. We've already gone almost half an hour. Maybe a little more. Might have to break this into 3 parts. Anyways, thanks for watching. This group was not successful. We were able to kill War Master Voon, but after that, we wiped at least twice, and then we called it for the night. It was already 2.5 hours in. Lower Blackrock is a long dungeon, totally, but it doesn't have to be as long as it definitely took this time. So remember what time you start your group at, right? If you start it too late, like I did, probably not a good idea. Unless it's a known quantity and you guys know what you're doing and you can get out on time. Otherwise, you might end up staying up too late, and tension and tempers can flare. So I just want to thank you guys for watching. I plan on covering a few more dungeon runs like this in a group with friends and other groups where I find great examples of tanking, great examples of healing, and great examples of CC. So take care, and I'll catch you next time.